Testing, 1, 2, 3, test. Somebody can let me know if you can hear me out there, that'd be great.
I hear you. Oh, yeah, there's a leg.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so I think I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live event, the Storm Forecast. My name is Brad Bergstrom, and I'm lucky enough to be the superintendent here in Sauk Rapids-Rice Public Schools. And I want to welcome all who are joining us tonight for this next session. For those of you that were here the last go-around, or I should say last week, we experienced some issues with my computer. For that, I apologize. It cut out and we got back in and then it did it again. So we have changed the format and the technology that we're using to hopefully avoid that. You'll see our background looks a little different and my positioning in terms of where I'm at in the room looks a little different, but the purpose will still be the same. So hopefully you're able to see me, you're able to hear me, and I look forward to being able to answer people's questions here as this session goes on. For those of you that have not been here before, welcome. Appreciate you being here tonight. Really the purpose behind this is for me to maybe share a few pieces of information and then really get into you asking your questions. So the question might be, so how do I get those questions? So we have 4 people here tonight who thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate that, who will be monitoring the comment section. So if you have some questions, please put them in there and then they will go ahead and write those down on a post-it for me and I'll answer them as the evening goes along. So that's how that process will work. And again, I look forward to being able to answer questions as the night goes along. A couple of other things, housekeeping items. Number 1, sometimes I'm not able to answer the question. If I might not know the answer, might need to do a little bit more digging with it. If that is the case, I'll certainly acknowledge that. And then on next week's Facebook Live meeting, I will go ahead and bring that question back up and give the response. If I don't get to every question that gets asked, we certainly will keep track of those. And if it makes sense, we will try to get some of that information out through some of our other forms of communication that we have. The last piece I have in terms of a housekeeping item before we get started tonight is, as I mentioned earlier, really the purpose behind this is for me to answer any questions that you and the community might have. And I will just ask that we treat each other with kindness and with respect. I know sometimes some of the information that's being shared may not be what you want to hear or maybe what you'd like to hear. And there may be also others who are asking questions that you might find not to your liking. This is a public forum and it belongs as a part of the school district piece, and so I'll just ask that we treat each other kindly, and I greatly appreciate that. I got just a couple of items that I want to make sure that I get to. One is again just the different setup that we're utilizing tonight, and if you have any thoughts or feedback with that, I greatly appreciate that. Would be interested in your thoughts. The second piece that I want to make sure that I talk about has to do with transportation. And again, just a gentle reminder that if you have, since last spring when school ended, if you have moved, if you have changed daycares, or you're changing your pickup or drop-off location, please fill out the transportation request and change form by next Monday on August 30th. The form can be found on the website and you can fill it out there. If you need a copy, a paper copy of one, please reach out to the building where your child goes to school, and we'll work to try and see if we can get you that. The critically important piece is we get this filled out by the 30th. Anything that comes in after that, you will be assigned the nearest bus stop, and it will be 2 weeks before we will have an opportunity to make any adjustments with that. And part of the reason why we need that window of time is so that bus routes can get set up, and we can't just start moving those and adding people in because every time you add a new stop in, it creates a time lag for everybody that's behind, and we want to make sure that we get that information out to families so they know what time to expect the bus within a few minutes, and so that's the reason why we're doing that. So again, if you have a change in address, if you've moved, you've changed your daycare, or you have a change in your pickup or drop-off location, please fill out that form. And again, one other thing with that, the My Stop app is back. I did get some information today that there may have been a firewall issue. Hopefully that has been remedied. If it's not, take a look tomorrow, and we'll get that, hopefully we can get everybody start logging into that as well. So just a little FYI that the My Stop app is back. We did have some issues, or I learned of an issue earlier today, and hopefully that has been remedied. If you are having some difficulties getting to My Stop, either you can't log in or you're not sure where to go with that, please reach out to your child's school, or better yet, reach out to the transportation department and they'll get you the information that you need. And those are the pieces that I wanted to make sure that I got through before we got into the questions. So again, just a gentle reminder, if you have any questions that you'd like for me to try and answer, please put them into the comments section, and we'll go ahead and get those questions written down, and then I'll do my very best to try and answer them for you. Looks like I've got a question or two coming in here. So the first question I have is, are we going to do testing every week for students that NDE is proposing? We have been looking at that. I should back up. So what this is in reference to, I believe, is last week the Minnesota Department of Education, along with the Minnesota Department of Health, announced a plan where there can be testing, and that testing for COVID can take place at schools. And there's a number of different options that have gone, that were laid out as a part of that. Number one that I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I shared this at the board meeting on Monday night, under no circumstances from the school district's perspective is this going to be required. If we choose to offer this, it would be completely voluntary, and would not be mandated unless a higher authority, whether it be the Department of Health, the state of Minnesota, the federal government, etc., if they required the testing, of course, then we would have to comply with that. But it is not our intention at this time to require the testing. We do know this when it comes to the testing piece. There are a lot of opportunities in our community for people to go and get free testing. We also know that there are also options that people can purchase if they want to do something at home. So there is a number, and there's also going to the COVID testing site at the River Center. So there are a number of different options. We have not made that decision yet in terms if we're going to be a testing site. There is a lot more information, not a lot, we need more information, and you can look for an announcement to come probably sometime next week in terms of where we're going to be at with that. But no decision has been made for sure, but please know that it will not be mandatory unless we are directed to do it, and that's not what this latest information from the Department of Education, Department of Health is saying, but rather it is an option for schools to provide that for families if we should so choose to. So I got a question here. The transportation form was sent out via email, and the question is, will there be an acknowledgement it was received? Is that from acknowledgement from the transportation department that it was received?
I'm wondering if it will be.
My understanding is that when that information goes out, we're letting the families know. And really, what we're looking for is, when that information goes out, if there is a question with the information, or if you're going to choose to opt out, then you'll need to let us know. But our communication is going out to families, and certainly if you want to let us know that, yep, you're in, that'd be great, not a requirement, but it would be a requirement, or we would ask that if you have decided not to do transportation, that you let us know so that routes can be adjusted to make sure that we're not overfilling a bus, or we've got the appropriate number of bus stops. The next question here is, if you rode the bus last year and there are no changes, do parents need to do anything? The answer to that is no. With that information you will be receiving some information from transportation, and it will give you that in terms of what that transportation would look like for you. And again, we'll ask that if you are going to choose not to do transportation, which is perfectly okay, just to let us know. I can send an email response back saying that we're going to choose not to participate in transportation this year. And if down the road something changes and you need to, certainly reach out to us and we'll see what we can do with that. So again, if you rode the bus last year and nothing has changed, you don't need to send any additional information in. We will, as long as your address hasn't changed, your daycare hasn't changed, your pickup drop-off hasn't changed, you are good to go. Oh, thank you very much. For those that might be interested in, if they have any questions or concerns or need some additional information, you can certainly call transportation, and that's 258-1995. Again, that's 258-1995, or you can email at transportation, the @isd47.org. So again, that's transportation, the @isd47.org. So again, either one of those mechanisms will work for communication in regards to questions, letting us know if you're not going to be providing or riding the bus for transportation, or if you need some additional information. So this question is, will elementary teachers remind the younger students to put on face coverings if parents request it? So this is a great question. And so here's where we're at with this. If you as a parent are wanting your child to have a face covering and make sure that they wear it, please, open house would be a great time. Let the teacher know that, I really like to have my child wearing a face covering. And if the child is choosing not to do it, we're not going to ask our staff to force kids to do those things. That we'll certainly remind them, absolutely, and if the child isn't compliant, we'll reach back out to you and let you know. It's the same thing, sometimes parents want kids to wear, when it gets starts to cooler outside, they want them to wear a jacket. Sometimes kids do that, sometimes they don't. At the end of the day, if that's the request and we ask the child and say, hey, look, remember your parent or parents want you to wear that, and we'll do the gentle reminder piece, but if it's not working, we're gonna reach back out to you because we'll need your help with that and helping to remind your child what it is that you're asking for. We wanna make sure that we are upholding what it is that you would like, but if the child is not cooperating for whatever reason that might be, we'll certainly communicate that with you so that we can partner with you to try and find a way to get what your wishes are. Will high school students choose where they sit at lunch? I do not know the answer to that question at this time. I will certainly try to find out. In fact, I might even try send a text message to the high school administration and see if I can get an answer before the night is over. But I do not know what that answer is, partially because since I've been here, it hasn't been a choice where you're going to sit. It's really going to be, it was really in those assigned seats. So I will do a little checking. If I don't get an answer by the end of the night tonight and we're done here, I will share that in our next Facebook Live meeting. So this question is if the Department of Health or the Department of Education make testing mandatory, will the district provide distance learning options? So I think there's two parts to this. I'm going to start with the first part, and that is distance learning. So distance learning was a part or an option that was provided last year as required in the executive orders that were in place throughout all of last school year. When those executive orders went away, so did the distance learning option that was there. Now, there was some conversation in the legislative branch about providing some guidance with that, and at the end of the session, that was not there. So distance learning, as we knew it last year, has gone away. And I think that's a really important piece to know, is that that piece has gone away. Now, what we as a school district have done is applied for what we are calling, what's called an online option, which looks very different. Okay, so back to this question is, if MDH or MDE makes testing mandatory, will the district provide distance learning? There is no distance learning. We have sought some feedback from our community or from our families on an online option, and you can look to have the outcome of that information being shared here very, very, very soon. And so again, depending upon the outcome of what we learned through that survey, there may or may not be an online learning option, but there will be no distance learning as an option per what we did last year as an option for families to choose. Oh, I got a quick answer. Thank you, Mr. Noner. Always appreciate your quick attention to questions that get sent to you. High school students will have a choice for lunch at this time. And I think that's a really key important piece, that with all of the information that we share in these Facebook Live meetings or in communication that goes out to families, it's really what we learned last year is it has to be at this time, because we know that things can change, they do change, and sometimes they change very quickly. So this next question here is, my kids were bullied at Kids Stop for wearing a mask. So before I go to the second part of that, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry. That's just not something that we as a district would find to be acceptable. And while the Kids Stop program is not a district program, we do have Kids Club as a part of what happens in Rice, and I'm checking to make sure I get the names right. I know that they do not accept that as well. And so whether it is in school or whether it is with Kids Stop, if there are some issues, it's really important that we are made aware of those things right away. We have school district policy, we have school district procedures that really strongly will deal with when we find out that there are issues, and whether it be harassment or it's bullying. While I think our staff do an amazing job of being in tune to what's going on, they're not eyes 24/7 and around, and sometimes things do happen. But we want to deal with it. It's not an excuse, it is that we will deal with that. So again, if to the person who asked this question and children being bullied at Kids Stop for wearing a face covering, I'm sorry. So their question is how are you going to make kids feel comfortable protecting themselves by wearing a face covering? So I think a couple of things. Number one, we have spent time administratively talking about that this will be something that we're going to have to be really in tune to because we know that this topic of face coverings carries a lot of emotions on both sides of it. And in our language that we have shared in our safe learning plan, we want people to know that if they should choose to wear a face covering, we're perfectly okay with that. Okay? And so when we start looking at this idea of making sure that our kids are being taken care of, I don't care whether it's face coverings, whether it's how tall they are, how short they are, their weight, the clothes that they wear. We really focus hard on making sure that all of our kids feel comfortable and safe. And when there are issues of harassment and when there are issues of bullying, we will address those. But we need people's help that if something is going on, that we're made aware of it. And so when we talk about how are we going to make kids feel comfortable, I don't know if I can make kids feel comfortable, but I know what I can do is I know that with the work of our amazing staff and our amazing building leaders and department heads, we will make sure that everybody knows that it's okay, and that we will also deal with any issues that should arise if somebody is not following that expectation. I think the other thing that is important with this is also being role models. And I know I've heard that there's going to be staff who are going to choose to wear a face covering, and I think that's perfectly okay. As a school superintendent, I have been wearing a face covering for several weeks. My sole purpose for doing that is exactly what's talked about here. I want to be a role model and know that if somebody should want to but are questioning whether or not they should, the school superintendent will be, and know that it's okay. So again, at the end of the day, we will continue to make sure that our kids are safe, and if there are issues or concerns, please reach out to a teacher, reach out to an administrator, and we will deal with that accordingly. So it's asked here, if my kids get picked up and dropped off every day, do I need to fill out a form for transportation? If it's the same location as last year, you don't have to fill out a form at all. However, if your address has changed, you moved, if the pickup drop-off location has changed, maybe you went to grandma's house after school and now you're not going to be going there, or if your daycare has changed and there's a pickup drop-off change there, then you need to let us know. But if everything is the same as last year, you do not need to fill out a form. Look for that email or that communication blast to come out in terms of what your pickup time and drop-off time will be. Again, if you have a question, reach out to the transportation department, transportation@isd47.org, and if it's a telephone number you want to call, 258-1995. The next question is, when do school schedules come out? Please look for that to come from buildings. I'm assuming if they haven't come out already, they'll soon be coming out. Each of those happens at their own pace and their own time, and I understand after having built high school schedules for a number of years that you want to make sure that you get that right, and sometimes there's some fine tuning that needs to happen at the end. But if you haven't gotten anything by the end of the week, if you want to reach out to the building and find out more of a schedule, or you can email them right now and just find out for sure when that schedule is going to come out. Because if it has and somehow you didn't get it, please, then we could get that situation taken care of for you. Oh, you know what? Mr. Donor, you just keep answering questions right on time, so I appreciate that. For high school schedules, Friday is going to be the release date for schedules. So be looking for that for high school students and high school families for schedules to come out on Friday of this week. So on the 27th, those schedules will be released. As I continue to wait for questions to come in, I wanted to reiterate that we have received notification from the state of Minnesota that the National School Lunch Program, the free lunch program, which up to this point went through September 30th of 2021, has been extended to go through the end of the school year, June 22nd of 2022. We're very pleased to be able to share that. Just as a point of reference, and I just got an email here, a text message, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Middle school schedules went out today. If you did not get a middle school schedule, please reach out to the middle school and they will try to figure out where that piece is at. So middle school schedules went out today, high school schedules are going out Friday. So back to the National School Lunch Program. This will be a free breakfast and a free lunch for all students, regardless of income status for the entire 21-22 school year. A couple of things to remember. Number one is a la carte items there will still be a charge for those, as well as any additional items that you want to get outside of the standard meal. The other thing to remember or want to make you be aware of is last year we were talking about this and there was some question from the USDA as to whether or not they had the funding, and at this time we have been assured that the funding is not an issue, but if something should change with that, we will certainly let you know. The final piece that I'll share with you on this is that one of the great things about offering a free meal for everybody is that there's no paperwork to fill out, it's just automatically given to people. But I really want to impress upon you to still think about, and we will ask that you please fill out the educational benefits form. Commonly known as the free and reduced lunch form. It is a form that you can find on our website. If you need a paper copy, please let us know. We'll certainly be willing to get that to you. But we will ask that you fill it out because there are benefits to both the school district and to families by filling out that form and qualifying. From a family perspective, it can help with fee reduction. It can help with getting access to scholarships and grants for activities to help make that more attainable. And we have other fees, etc., that can be reduced as a result of that. For the school district, part of our funding for things like reading intervention for lowering class sizes comes off of that free and reduced lunch count, which is based off of that ed benefits form. And that funding piece is really important to us and allows us to provide options for students that we might not otherwise be able to do. And then the final piece is really from an activities perspective is that it may have an impact on the classification that we're in, whether we're AA, AAA, or whatever, depending upon the activity. Those with a higher free and reduced lunch rate are generally not in as, it might have their classification reduced to a lower section. So making sure that we know where our students are at and where our families are at by filling out that ed benefits form, we'd certainly appreciate if you would still do that, and the sooner that you could do that, the better. Oh, I get to talk about something other than COVID. This is awesome. Is the new Pleasant View building on schedule? And the answer to that question is absolutely it is. If you've driven by there recently, you will see that on, I gotta get my directions straight here, on the north On the east side of the building, you will see that there's actually brick up on the building. You will see that they're putting the foam covering and they're putting a gray coat over that to help protect once the brick and stuff gets put on there. We also have One Storm, One Future website, and every month we've been doing a drone flyover of the building. I took a little time here the other day and looked at where we were at when we first started and where the latest drone footage is at, which just went up in there on Tuesday. And it's just amazing to see the difference in what that site looks like. So it is still on schedule to be opened in August of 2022. We did have some issues with steel deliveries earlier this summer. That has been remedied, and we are still on track to get the building in a pretty good position to be closed up so we can continue to do some work in the wintertime on the inside of the building. So the reason why I make mention of that is at some point the drone videos from the outside will cease because it's going to be basically a lot of the same thing, and then we'll start taking a look at some things that are going on the inside. So great question, thank you for asking that. This question is, what is Sauk Rapids Rice free reduced percentage? So because those numbers generally operate a year behind, last year in the 2021 school year was based off of our 1920 free reduced lunch count, and that was at about 27.8% for 2021.
October 1, 2020.
Okay, for October 1 of 2020, that was 27.8%. Okay, so we generally have been around 30 to 33%, and so again, as that number continues to drop, it does have an impact on those things that I mentioned earlier, and so we were at 27.8% for October of 2020. So this next question is refund if deposited money into a food account. That's a great question. So I think it depends upon the age of the student and where things are at. So for example, if a student, if there's money in a student account and they're going to be a senior, those refunds will generally come at the end of that senior year. And part of the reason that we leave those dollars in there is if they want to access a la carte or do some things that are not part of the free or reduced lunch program. If you would like to have that money refunded prior to the spring of the year, please reach out to the food service department, and I'm sure that they will work with you to either let you know when it can happen or if there is a need to adjust that. I know that our staff are willing to work with you. So this next question is really the rationale for why the Safe Learning Plan for Sauk Rapids Rice Public Schools is not in alignment with the CDC recommendation. And so I'm going to take a little bit of an adventure, a walk with this to share with you some of the reasons why our Safe Learning Plan is the way that it is. So one of the things that we learned last year is that it is exceptionally important in terms of what's going on in our community. I've oftentimes used the phrase in the year plus that I've been here is that we as a school district goes as the community goes. And that is very, very important. But we also learned last year that what's taking place in our buildings really is a driver for what it is that we can and cannot do. And here's the two pieces of information that I share. So last year, the Department of Health at the beginning, it was back in August, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, they shared really some points in regards to COVID cases in a county. And it really was the number of cases divided by the county population divided by 10,000. And for us, we were approximately 40,000 people in Benton County. So it basically was dividing it by 4. So whatever our case numbers were, we divided it by 4, and that gave us a number. And if it was between 0 and 9.99, there was a recommendation and said this is the learning model that you should be in. And it went all the way up to 50, and then once you were beyond 50, the recommendation was that you would be in a distance learning model, which was offered last year, not being offered this year. So we found out, in fact it was early in the middle of September, we found that despite where our county numbers were at, which said at the elementary level we could be in an in-person model, we needed to move one of the buildings into a distance learning model because of what was going on with COVID in that building and an inability to staff it. So despite what the numbers publicly were saying, we needed to do something different. Okay? Then we fast forward to in the wintertime, we learned that where our numbers were at, and we learned that despite where the community was at, despite what those MDH numbers were, we were able to bring back our students into a full in-person model, and in fact, we did keep them in place throughout the course of the year without having to change models. Now, my point in sharing this is that I get and understand that people will have varying opinions on safety and the reasons why that happened. What I will share with you is that that internal data that we have is really a driver for us. And as we have developed our safe learning plan, we have said from the get-go several things. One, we will continually monitor our internal as well as our local, our county, and our regional data. We will continue to look at those pieces. And if there is data that says we need to review our safe learning plan, we certainly will. We have shown last year in the way that we address COVID and the education of our students and the safety for them. And again, I get safety can be a subjective word. It really is about us looking at what's going on inside of our buildings. And if it needs to change, we've done that and we will do that again. So the rationale really is looking at our internal data and monitoring all of our data daily. I spend time every day looking at where are we at with the age groups of our students, 0 to 11, 12 to 17. I can go to the Benton County website. I'm looking at what is the CDC and the transmission rate saying. I've got several other places that I go and look at. We look at where's where's Stearns County at? Because we know we have students and staff that are coming from Stearns County. And we'll be looking at absences once the school year gets started. We're monitoring how things are going with our activities right now to see if there's any issues or concerns that are showing up there. And so this is the path that has been chosen to be taken. And again, the plan itself is where we're at right now. And if our data says we need to review it, we certainly will. And I understand that there may be varying viewpoints with that, but in trying to answer this question, I wanted to let you know how and why we arrived at where our safe learning plan is at. This question is, why is funding for special education services based on the free and reduced lunch count? If I said special education funding on the free and reduced lunch count, that is not accurate. Special education funding has its own funding stream. Unfortunately, it's what was promised as a part of the special education funding. It's not even close to where it should be at, and that's why districts like ours need to use additional funds out of our general fund to support our special education services, which we will gladly do. That is not a question in my mind as a school superintendent. We will meet the needs of our students and meet their goals to the best of our ability and provide the adequate resources. But special education funding specifically is not related to free and reduced lunch. Free and reduced lunch funding for us is really for programs such as reading intervention and lowering class sizes. The actual name of it is compensatory funding, and there are some prescriptive areas in which we can spend that money, and that is based off of our percentage of free and reduced lunch students in the community. And the next part here said, okay, got it. I got the question answered. So this next question is, if we are not wearing face coverings, social distancing with classroom and pods or contact tracing, what will we do when COVID cases come? So I'm going to clarify a couple of things here. One, we are giving, at this point, it is encouraged for those who wish to wear a face covering, and we are looking at that language to possibly change it from encouraged to recommended, and that is a conversation that's happening right now. So will there be some that will not be? Of course. Will there be some that will be? Of course. Social distancing, just like we did last year when we came back in person, we will social distance to the extent possible. So we know that instructionally, that small group instruction can be an exceptionally powerful tool to help teachers understand where students are at and help them to make the gains that we're looking for. And it can be in reading, it can be in math, you name the topic area. So when there is small group that's taking place, we might not be 3 feet apart. But every chance we can, we will try to social distance to the extent possible, and that's exactly what we did last year when it came time for the social distancing component. As far as with classrooms and pods, at the elementary level, that occurs much more naturally than it does at the secondary level. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And so elementary level, just by the natural way of things going, it does work itself. So the question then becomes, what will we do when COVID cases come into school? We'll do exactly what we did last year, and that is we will monitor our data. We will encourage families that if they're in close contact to follow the quarantine guidelines. We are going to trust that our families will make the right decision when it comes to things like quarantine, when it comes to being symptomatic. And if the data that we have indicates that our safe learning plan isn't working, then we will certainly respond to that. So at the end of the day, I've oftentimes talked about it's a partnership between our families and the community and the schools, and that doesn't change with this. Now, does that mean that everybody's going to be happy with this approach? No, it's not. I understand that. But we will continue to make sure that we are monitoring and sharing with families what our expectations will be. And if COVID is, as a result of what's going on in the community is coming here, we will respond to that. And if if there's some issues internally, we will respond to that as well. So as I'm waiting for additional questions to come in, I thought I might share some interesting or some important information with you. Let's talk a little bit about open houses. They're going to be happening next week. And so for our kindergarten and first grade students and families, we will be doing open house at all of our elementary buildings on Wednesday, September 1st. That time period will be from 3 to 7, and we're asking that you make an appointment to do that. This was a strategy that we used last year as a result of COVID, and we got a lot of positive feedback from families with this, and so we're going to go ahead and follow that same procedure. Although you're going to be able to come in, they won't be virtual like they were last year. So again, because of a staggered start, which I'll get to in just a moment, next Wednesday, elementary open house, 3 to 7, for our kindergarten and first grade families. For our families of 2nd through 5th graders, that will be Tuesday, September 7th, and again, that will be from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock by appointment. So at our elementary levels, we're going to be doing the appointment protocol. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to your child's school, and we'll certainly try to help answer those. For the high school, we'll be doing open house. It will not be by appointment. It will be allowed to come in, and that will be Wednesday, September 1st from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock. And just a quick note with that, at 4:30 you can come in for pictures. So again, at the high school, September 1st from 5 to 8. At the middle school, same date, just a little different time. It'll be from 4:30 until 7:30. So open house is starting next week. That's always exciting. We know that school is just around the corner. For our early childhood, open house will be at Hillside and at Rice, and that will be Wednesday, September 1st from 3 until 7. First day of school, which is always a tremendously exciting time. Let's start with Hillside first, our early childhood. Their first day won't be until the 13th of September. There's that first week, there's that when the K through 12 students come back in, there's no school for early childhood, so they will start on Monday, September 13th. And then for our elementary students, we're doing a staggered start, and so it'll be on Tuesday, September 7th. It'll be kindergarten and first grade students only. At the high school, at the middle school level, it will be 6th grade students only. And also on Tuesday, September 7th, the high school will be 9th grade students only. Then when we move to Wednesday, September 8th, it will be K through 5 will be in session, so our 2nd through 5th grade students will be joining for the first day of school. At the middle school level, our 7th and 8th graders will be joining for the first day, and then at the high school level, it will be our 10th through 12th graders. So first day, staggered start, K1 for Tuesday, September 7th at the elementary schools, middle school, 6th grade only, and high school, 9th grade only. And then everybody gets to come back and start and be in school on Wednesday, September 8th. And again, we're looking forward to that. And then for our families that have children at the early childhood level, the first day of school there will be on Monday, September 13th. Oh, a quick little addition to this, thank you. For students at the middle school level and grades 7 and 8 who are new to the district, you will also be coming on Tuesday, September 7th. So if you didn't attend the middle school in last year or in the past, and you are a 7th or 8th grader, we are also welcoming you to the building on Tuesday, September 7th as well. So again, new to district, 7th and 8th grade, you're also going to be welcome to come to school on Tuesday the 7th, and then to get a chance to to learn a little bit more about the middle school and how it works. The next question I have is, will there be additional face coverings available at the office if students should choose to wear them? Absolutely. We'll have them on our transportation buses and vans. We'll also have them available in the buildings. So as we know, it can easily happen. You're wanting to wear a face covering and you forget it, or something happens to it. We'll have them available for families or for students that if they should so choose to want to wear one and they have forgotten theirs or something happened with their face covering. So the next question here really talks about the process for a student who is quarantined and what about the rest of the class. So in our current Safe Learning Plan, if a student is identified as having tested positive, so we find out student tested positive for COVID, for that student who tested positive, you are required to go home and isolate for 10 days. And before coming back, you must be symptom-free. key piece when we talk about the quarantine, and there, excuse me, in this case, isolation, the day that you find out that you are positive, that's day 0. And so it's 10 days starting that next day, okay? And again, you need to be symptom-free. Our process is going to be that when we look to do our close contact notification process, if we determine that somebody has been inside of the distance that is acceptable, which is 6 feet, for more than 15 minutes, we will send home a Tier 1 notification letting you know that you have been in close contact with somebody who is known to have tested positive. If we cannot determine that, yep, it was inside of 6 feet, but you were in a room or in a space with somebody who tested positive, we will send a Tier 2 notification home to you indicating that you may have been you were in a space with somebody who tested positive, but we cannot confirm that it's been inside of 6 feet. Now, why would we do that? Part of what we want to do is make sure that our families have all the information necessary so they can make the best decision for what it is that they're going to do with their child. So now let's talk about the quarantine piece, because quarantine comes into play when you may have had a close contact with somebody who has tested positive. There will be 5 options for families to choose to do with quarantine. Option, and in no particular order, okay? Option number 1 is that you can choose to quarantine and do what we call the 7-day plan. The 7-day plan is you get tested starting on day 5. And remember, if notified, that's day 0. So it has to be on day 5 or later. If the test comes back negative and you're showing no symptoms, you can come back on day 7. The 10-day plan, the difference between the 7 and the 10-day is not only the number of days, but there's not a testing mandate that goes with that. So you can choose to stay home for 10 days, monitor for symptoms. Again, the day you find out is day 0. 10 days after that, you can then come back and monitor for symptoms. Choice number 3, which is the one that is oftentimes referred to as the best practice, is that you would stay home for 14 days, continue to monitor, and then if you're symptom-free, you come back. So with the 7, the 10, and the 14-day, with all of them, when you reach those thresholds, if you are symptom-free, you are more than welcome to come back. So that's the 3 that we have talked about a little bit last year, and in fact, it was in May that we made the transition from just being 14 days into 7 days, because we had information that showed that there was no spread that was happening when the time period was shortened up for 7 days, and in districts around us, and that were doing that. And so we moved to that and found that, again, that this worked out just fine for us. The other 2 options are you can choose to continue to come to school and wear a face covering and monitor for your symptoms. And the 5th option is that you can come to school, but again, the importance of monitoring your system for your symptoms. And if you have symptoms in any of these options, it will be exceptionally important that you stay home as to not spread. And whether it could be the flu, it could be some other sort of sickness, or COVID. If you're not feeling well, if you have symptoms, it's really important that people stay home. So that is the process for how we're going to quarantine. With our safe learning plan right now, it is not in there that we would quarantine a class. So unlike last year, where there were moments for a good chunk of the year, we were quarantining the class, but as we learned more, as we got later into the spring, we moved from it's an automatic that everybody needs to quarantine to being a bit more prescriptive with that. And again, that was based upon the information that we had. So that is the process for how we're going to quarantine. Well, the next question is, will the face coverings available from the school be cloth or disposable? We have both. and depending upon what our supply is and where things are at, it could be one or the other. So face coverings will be available, and again, they could either be cloth or the disposable ones. This next question is the quarantine protocols the same for staff? The answer to that question is yes. Again, we know that we're trusting that people will make the right decisions with this, and we'll continue to monitor our data, but the quarantine options and protocols will be the same for our staff. The key piece with this to remember is that if you test positive, you must isolate for 10 days. And we also must report that to the state of Minnesota. That is one of the two requirements that we have at this time. One of them is that face coverings are required on transportation. And unlike last year, it's for anybody who is ages 2 and up. And the other one is we have to report positive cases. It will be extremely important that if you have symptoms, the best practice is to stay home until you either get a negative test or the symptoms go away. And if you test positive, you will need to isolate for 10 days, with the day you test positive or find out that you're positive as day 0. Wow, this is a really good, it's not even a question, but just a reminder, and thank you for who wrote this. As we start to get back to school, school's going to start with kids on September 7th, and we are excited to be having them come back and be a part of our buildings again. And it's a gentle reminder for all of us who are behind the wheel of a vehicle, and that doesn't matter if you're a high school age student or if you're somebody who's been out of school for a long time. When school starts, it is imperative that we make sure that we are being extra cautious, extra alert, because as students are coming to their bus stop, as they're riding their bikes to and from school, oftentimes they may not be in spots that we have gotten used to since we've had summer vacation, or they might not, it's just not something that's a thought process on your mind. So paying that extra close, extra special attention as we're out and moving around as school gets ready to start, it's imperative, and we would greatly appreciate that. Again, we have students who wait at bus stops for buses to come. Again, sometimes those are street corners, etc. Just paying that extra close attention to where things are at. And as a former bus driver myself, please pay attention to those stop signals, the bus signals. An amber light does not mean pass. An amber light means at any moment that red light is going to come on. Please do not pass on the right. Please do not go around because you see kids on the right side and I'm in a hurry. That extra 5 seconds that you're gonna save, that you think you might be getting, could be the difference between a catastrophic outcome for a student and not. So please, please be paying attention to where kids are at. They're going to be out and about more, and sometimes in their excitement as well, they're not paying as close attention as we'd like them to be. It's our jobs as the drivers of those vehicles to be alert, and then also when it comes time for buses, please obey those signals, and let's make sure that not only do our students get picked up and dropped off at school safely every day, but just as important that they get picked up from school and get dropped home safely as well. Your help with this is greatly appreciated. So I'm not sure if everybody is aware of this or not, but thanks to the city of Sauk Rapids, there is a new trail that will connect Osaka Road Northeast, which is the road that is on the south end of the high school. It connects back to Golden Spike Road. It's a wonderful trail that can be accessed. And one of the things that I'm very excited about is I know that we have students who come and access our facilities that we have, and now they don't have to be out on Mayhew, which obviously creates more of a risk and more of a danger. So thank you to the City of Sauk Rapids for getting this trail put together, and all who played a role in having this happen, and that trail will provide a safe access for our students and anybody else who would like to access the facilities here at the high school and keep us off of busy Mayhew Lake Road, especially as you're coming from the south, Golden Spike going north. Wow, time flies when you're having fun, and I'm looking at 7:58 as I speak here. I'm looking to see if I have any more questions, and maybe time for one more before we go to and see if there's any last questions. Again, just a gentle reminder, our Safe Learning Plan is found on our website, and as we update that, the date will change on the document itself, and then any of the newest changes will be found in red font. Check back with that on a regular basis. And then, again, I hope that the technology that we are using this week, you found it easy to hear me, and to be able to, we managed to make it through without a glitch like we did last week. So that puts a smile on my face. And if you have any thoughts or feedback for us in this new setup, please let us know as well. I'm not seeing any more questions at this time. Thank you to those who took time out of your evening to be here and ask the questions and to listen in. I'll be letting you know where we're going to be at next week in terms of Facebook Live. It does get to be an exceptionally busy time of the year, and so we'll wait and see where that's going to be at. So stay tuned for more information on that. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you again for tuning in. Take care and go Storm.